whether you're a chain restaurant or a manufacturer or an association, you really want to sort of take that notion of food with a story to heart as well. And it really just sort of means having something to say about the food beyond just the food itself. We all know freshness is very important. Nearly 90% of menus describe their food as fresh today. The average fast food menu uses the word fresh 8 times. But if you ask consumers, do you really think that food is fresh from that restaurant? Typically the answer is no. About 62% of consumers say if I have line of sight into the kitchen, it vastly increases my perception that the food is fresh. Fast casual pizza place, 60% say that this really tells me the food is fresh, way more so than just the word. Or what's really sort of interesting is here's an ad, I think this one is from Chipotle, I think. You know, it says, it's not just a burrito, it's a foil-wrapped, handcrafted, local farm supporting, food culture changing cylinder of deliciousness. And when we ask consumers, what does this say to you? They say, this really tells me that the food is fresh, because it tells a story that's a little bit different than just generically tattooing fresh in the description of a menu item. Over 5,000 items have been introduced for the first time onto a menu. That's a lot of stuff to keep track of. So, you know, each time you launch a new item, it probably means a lot to you, but within the greater context of all the other restaurants out there, it's really a drop in the bucket. 75% of the time when people go to a place they've been to before, they know what they want to order before they even get to the restaurant. You have a craving for a specific item, and then you choose where to go based on that craving. If you look at the average score across thousands and thousands of items, millennials rate everything higher on average, and boomers rate everything lower on average. Each item can really target a different demographic, and that's maybe one way we want to start thinking about the menu is, who are we appealing to with this particular item? There's another measure we like to look at too, which is something called draw, which is if you like the item, would you go visit a place just to have it? But these are the items that have the highest draw overall. Seafood has extraordinarily high draw. If you have something that has exceptionally high draw, you're potentially bringing more people through the door. You can use testing to predict what's actually going to be a successful item. That if we were really sort of efficient about all this, we would test everything ahead of time, and everything would be at that 72 level. But instead, we're at the 50 and 51. So that's a gap that can be addressed via research alone, so that we have more successful items each time we take them onto the menu. Places that score really highly in brand affinity are also the ones that score really highly in food rating. It's almost a perfect one-to-one relationship. So if you score really good on food, people like your brand a lot as a restaurant chain. Things like affordability and discounts actually correlate negatively with brand affinity. Places that are thought to be more affordable and to offer a lot of discounts are also brands that people don't like. Large chains score lower in brand interest than do smaller chains, oftentimes because consumers think of it as just a big chain that's no longer that personal to them. If we think about the market map as, you know, West, Midwest, South, and Northeast, you know, South includes everything from, you know, Miami to New Orleans to, you know, lots of things that really don't have much to do with each other in terms of the food. You know, the Midwest, a lot of different places that have nothing to do with each other in terms of the food. They just sort of get clustered there. If we go local, we could do something that really actually matters to that local consumer that would seem to make sense. What do we think is going to happen 5 years from now that you could start planning for today? And there's a lot. 20% of the population today, Generation Z, in 5 years, they're going to represent 40% of the population. So that's a significant chunk of who's eating your food. Here's what the numbers look like for American food. Gen Z is a little bit less interested in it. Boomers a little bit more interested in it. In Southern food, right, there's your distribution there. Gen Z a little bit less interested in Southern food than the other generations. Here's Korean food. You can see the trend curve sort of reverses a little bit all of a sudden. Then we have something like Vietnamese, where Gen Z is way more interested in it. Asians represent by percentage, some of the fastest growing portions of the American population these days. So let's think about not cuisines, but specific food items, because I think that's the way consumers are going to start thinking about things. It used to be this whole, you know, at home versus away from home, and away from home is 48% of the food dollar, and at home is 52%. And if we could only steal, you know, 1 extra percentage point from at home, then we'd make all this extra money, you know, and that still holds to be true. And the focus has been, let's get this guy off the couch and get him to go out to a restaurant instead? But can we maybe serve them in their couch, which seems to be a much larger opportunity, and those online ordering platforms are going to help us get there. Our leftovers are more exciting than most of the stuff people are eating at home otherwise. That's pretty good. I think there's a huge opportunity to not so much focus on getting the person off the couch and into your restaurant, but bring your restaurant to their couch instead. Does the item travel well? Does it reheat well the next day? Do we start thinking about things that are more like a home meal replacement solution? So not just our standard menu, but something that's more designed specifically to serve as a meal for multiple people in home.